In a world where everyday encounters can feel like a battle of egos, sometimes all it takes is a small moment of humility to change everything. What happens when a rude customer crosses paths with someone who understands the true power of kindness? It's a lesson in grace, one that no one expects. Least of all, the customer himself. If you enjoy these stories, then feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us your thoughts. And make sure to hit that bell so you never miss the next upload. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon hung heavy in the air of the small-town diner, a comforting, familiar scent that clung to the checkered tablecloths and the worn vinyl booths. The morning rush was in full swing, a symphony of clattering dishes, murmured conversations, and the rhythmic whir of the milkshake machine. Regulars, a mix of truckers with weathered faces, construction workers in dusty boots, families grabbing a quick bite before school, and the occasional tourist passing through filled the cozy space. At one of the corner tables, a young waitress named Maria navigated the bustling scene with practiced ease. She moved with a dancer's grace, balancing precarious stacks of plates, refilling coffee cups with a flick of her wrist, and taking orders with a warm, genuine smile that reached her eyes. She'd practically grown up in this diner, starting as a busser in high school and working her way up. She knew the regulars' orders by heart, their usual banter, their family histories. She took pride in her work, in the small connections she made, in the feeling of being part of this close-knit community. But even in the most familiar settings, there were always unpredictable elements. And some customers, Maria had learned over the years, were harder to please than others. Near the window, a man sat alone, nursing a cup of coffee. He was dressed in an expensive, impeccably tailored suit, a stark contrast to the casual attire of the other patrons. His posture was rigid, his face etched with a perpetual scowl. He radiated an air of superiority, a sense that he was somehow above the mundane reality of this small-town diner, above the people in it, above Maria. Maria approached his table, her smile unwavering, though she'd already braced herself. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" she asked, her voice gentle. The man looked up, his eyes narrowing, assessing her with a dismissive glance. "Yeah," he said, his voice clipped and condescending. "You can start by getting me some decent coffee. This stuff tastes like it's been brewed since last Tuesday." Maria's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but she quickly recovered, her professionalism kicking in. "I'm sorry you feel that way, sir," she replied, her tone even. "I can make you a fresh pot if you'd like." "Just get me something strong," the man snapped, his fingers drumming impatiently on the table. "And make it quick, I don't have all day." Maria nodded, her cheeks tightening slightly. She walked away to the coffee station, the weight of his words settling on her shoulders. She knew how to handle difficult customers. She'd encountered her fair share of them over the years. But this man's rudeness was particularly sharp, particularly pointed. It wasn't just his words. It was the way he delivered them, the condescending tone, the dismissive look that made her feel small and insignificant. She brewed a fresh pot of coffee, extra strong, and returned to his table, placing the steaming mug in front of him without a word. She refused to engage with his negativity. "And what about my breakfast?" the man demanded, as if she'd deliberately forgotten his order. "I ordered 10 minutes ago." "It's coming right up, sir," Maria said, her voice remaining calm, though her patience was wearing thin. "We're very busy this morning." "Well, you need to be faster," the man retorted, his voice rising. "I'm a paying customer. I expect to be served promptly. I don't expect to be treated like some peasant." Maria took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. She wanted to tell him that she was doing her best, that she was working as fast as she could, that she was juggling multiple orders and demanding customers. But she knew it wouldn't do any good. Some people were simply determined to be difficult, determined to exert their perceived superiority over those they deemed beneath them. She walked away again, her shoulders slightly slumped, the sting of his words lingering. She felt the familiar burn of disrespect, the feeling of being belittled and taken for granted. It wasn't just about the coffee or the breakfast. It was about the way the man treated her, as if she was less than human, as if her feelings, her dignity, didn't matter. It was the casual misogyny, the assumption that because she was a waitress, she was somehow less deserving of respect. At a nearby table, a man sat quietly, observing the interaction with a frown. He was dressed casually, in jeans and a simple t-shirt, his usually recognizable face partially obscured by a baseball cap. It was Keanu Reeves. He'd slipped into the diner unnoticed, hoping for a quiet breakfast before his day began. He'd been enjoying the anonymity, the simple pleasure of a cup of coffee and a newspaper, but he couldn't ignore the exchange unfolding nearby. He recognized the familiar, insidious pattern of misogyny, the way some men felt entitled to treat women with disdain, as if their worth was solely based on their service, their subservience. He watched as Maria walked away, her expression clearly showing her discomfort, her hurt. He saw the way the rude customer continued to grumble to himself, his face contorted in a mask of self-importance. He saw the way the other patrons, mostly regulars, exchanged uncomfortable glances, their faces reflecting a shared sense of embarrassment and indignation. He decided he couldn't remain silent. When Maria returned with the man's breakfast, a plate of pancakes and bacon, he barely acknowledged her presence. He was too busy complaining to the air, his voice a low, rumbling drone of discontent. He picked at his food, pushing it around his plate, his face a picture of disgust. Keanu waited until Maria had finished serving the man, her movements stiff and strained, and then, as she walked past his table, he caught her attention. "Excuse me," he said politely, his voice low and gentle. Maria turned, her smile a little weary, a flicker of resignation in her eyes. "Yes, sir?" Keanu nodded towards the rude customer who was now loudly complaining about the syrup. "I'd like to pay for his breakfast," he said quietly, making sure his voice wouldn't carry. Maria looked surprised, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. "Oh, sir, you don't have to do that," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'd like to," Keanu insisted, his eyes meeting hers. "And I'd also like to add a rather generous tip." He emphasized the word generous subtly, a hint of irony in his tone. Maria's smile finally broke through, a genuine, heartfelt smile that lit up her face. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "That's very kind of you." Keanu then caught the rude customer's attention, clearing his throat softly. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but firm, carrying just enough to be heard. The man looked up, his expression shifting from annoyance to a flicker of recognition. He recognized Keanu instantly, his eyes widened slightly, his posture shifting subtly. He suddenly became acutely aware of the fact that his boorish, entitled behavior had been witnessed by someone universally respected, someone who embodied kindness and compassion, someone who was known for his quiet generosity and his genuine respect for others. He mumbled something unintelligible, his earlier arrogance replaced by a palpable sense of embarrassment. The shift in his demeanor was almost comical. Keanu didn't say anything more directly to him. He simply made eye contact with the man, his gaze steady and unwavering, conveying a clear message: that his behavior was unacceptable, that his words had consequences, that his actions had been observed and judged. He then turned back to Maria, offering her a warm, genuine smile. "Thank you for your service," he said sincerely, his voice filled with respect. "You're doing a great job." Maria's smile was radiant this time, a weight lifted from her shoulders. "Thank you, sir," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "That means a lot." Keanu nodded, a small, almost imperceptible gesture of acknowledgement, and then turned his attention back to his own breakfast, leaving the rude customer to stew in his own discomfort, in the sudden, stark realization of his own appalling behavior. The man finished his breakfast in an uncharacteristic silence, his earlier bluster replaced by a quiet unease. He picked at his food, his appetite seemingly gone. He paid his bill, leaving a significantly smaller tip than the one Keanu had provided, and then quickly, almost furtively, left the diner, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Maria watched him go, a sense of quiet satisfaction washing over her. She knew that Keanu's intervention hadn't just been about the money, though the generous tip was certainly appreciated. It was about something far more important. It was about respect, about dignity, about the simple, fundamental act of recognizing another person's humanity. It was a powerful, silent rebuke to the casual misogyny that she, and so many other women, had to endure on a daily basis. She cleared the man's table, a small, almost imperceptible smile playing on her lips. She felt a renewed sense of confidence, a quiet strength blossoming within her. She was a waitress, yes, but she was also a person, a human being worthy of respect, worthy of kindness. Keanu's simple act of kindness, his quiet but firm intervention, had reminded her of that fundamental truth. It had reaffirmed her value, not just as a server, but as a person. She returned to her work, her step lighter, her smile brighter, a newfound confidence radiating from within. The diner hummed with its usual chaotic energy, the clatter of plates, the murmur of conversations, the insistent ring of the cash register. But beneath the surface of Maria's renewed confidence, a complex tapestry of emotions began to weave itself. The gratitude she felt towards Keanu was immense, a warm glow that spread through her chest. His words, so simple yet so powerful, echoed in her mind. "Don't let anyone dim your light." They were a lifeline, a reminder of her own worth in a world that often tried to diminish it. Yet, alongside the gratitude, a flicker of doubt began to surface. Was it real? She wondered. Was this newfound confidence genuine, or just a fleeting feeling brought on by a moment of kindness? The ingrained habit of minimizing herself, of accepting less than she deserved, was deeply ingrained. Years of dealing with rude customers, of being treated as invisible, had left their mark. Could she truly shed that skin so easily? Could she really stand up for herself, demand the respect she deserved without fear of repercussions? The memory of the rude customer's face, contorted with anger and entitlement, flashed before her eyes. The way he had looked at her, as if she was nothing, as if her feelings didn't matter, still stung. What if he came back? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. What if he complained to her boss? Her job, while sometimes challenging, was essential. She needed it to pay the bills, to help her family. The fear of losing it, of facing the consequences of asserting herself, gnawed at her. And then there was the weight of Keanu's gift, the folded piece of paper with his contact information. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to connect with someone who could potentially change her life. But it was also a daunting responsibility. What if she called and he didn't remember her? What if she bothered him with something trivial? The fear of being a burden, of overstepping her bounds, made her hesitate. She clutched the paper tighter in her hand, the smooth surface a tangible reminder of the chance he had given her. But the weight of it, the sheer potential it represented, felt almost overwhelming. As she moved through the diner, serving customers, refilling coffee cups, a silent battle raged within her. The desire to embrace her newfound confidence clashed with the ingrained fear of vulnerability. The hope for a better future wrestled with the comfort of familiar, albeit sometimes painful, routines. She smiled at the customers, she engaged in polite conversations, she performed her duties with practiced efficiency. But beneath the surface, her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions. She thought about her dreams, the things she wanted to achieve, the person she wanted to be. She had always been creative, drawn to art and design. But she had never pursued those passions, convinced that they were unrealistic, that they were beyond her reach. Maybe this could be a chance, she thought, a flicker of excitement igniting within her. Maybe Keanu's offer was a sign, a nudge in the right direction. But then the doubts crept back in, whispering insidious lies. Who are you to think you can achieve your dreams? They hissed. You're just a waitress. You're not good enough. The familiar voices of self-doubt threatened to drown out the fragile spark of hope. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of conflicting emotions. She felt like she was walking a tightrope, balancing on the edge of possibility, the fear of falling always present. She longed to confide in someone, to share her hopes and fears, but she hesitated, unsure who to trust. She had always been the strong one, the one everyone relied on. To admit her vulnerability, to reveal the turmoil within, felt like a betrayal of that role. As the day drew to a close and the diner began to empty, Maria found a quiet moment to slip into a booth and collect her thoughts. She unfolded the piece of paper with Keanu's contact information, her fingers tracing the letters of his name. She stared at the number, her heart pounding in her chest. Should she call? Could she? The weight of the decision pressed down on her, heavy and suffocating. She knew that this was a turning point, a moment of choice. She could either cling to the familiar comfort of her current life, or she could take a leap of faith, embrace the unknown, and dare to dream. The inner turmoil continued to rage, the battle between hope and fear, between confidence and doubt, still undecided. The future, for the first time in a long time, felt uncertain, full of both terrifying possibilities and exhilarating promise. Maria sat in the booth, the folded paper clutched in her hand. The diner was almost empty now, the last few stragglers finishing their meals. The weight of the decision pressed down on her, the fear and doubt still whispering their insidious lies. "Who are you kidding?" they hissed. "You're just a waitress. You'll never be anything more." But something had shifted within her. The encounter with Keanu, his simple words of encouragement, had planted a seed of hope. She might not know what the future held. She might not be brave enough to call him just yet. But she knew one thing. She wouldn't let anyone dim her light. Not anymore. She thought back to his words. "You have a gift for connecting with people, for bringing a little bit of sunshine into their lives." A small smile touched her lips. Maybe he was right. Maybe she did have a gift. She thought about the regulars, their faces lighting up when she remembered their usual order, their stories, their families. She thought about the children, their eyes wide with wonder as she delivered a towering milkshake. She thought about the elderly couple who always shared a booth by the window, their hands clasped together, their smiles warm and gentle. She had created connections with these people, small moments of joy in their day. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Maybe it was more than enough. She unfolded the paper again, her fingers tracing the letters of his name. Keanu Reeves. It still seemed surreal, like a dream. She imagined him on the other end of the line, his voice kind and reassuring. But the fear was still there, a knot in her stomach. What would she even say? What could she possibly ask of someone like him? She looked around the diner, the familiar surroundings suddenly imbued with a new significance. This place, this small-town diner, was her world. It was where she had grown up, where she had learned the value of hard work, where she had forged connections with the people around her. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't exciting, but it was hers. And maybe, just maybe, she could find her own kind of magic here, in the everyday moments, in the small acts of kindness, in the simple joy of connecting with another human being. She refolded the paper carefully and tucked it back into her pocket. She might not call him today. She might not call him tomorrow. But the knowledge that she could, that she had a lifeline to someone who believed in her, was enough. It was a seed of hope planted in fertile ground, waiting to blossom. As she closed up the diner for the night, a sense of peace settled over her. The inner turmoil hadn't completely disappeared, but it had quieted down, replaced by a quiet sense of resolve. She wasn't just a waitress. She was Maria. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was a storyteller, a listener, a bringer of sunshine. And she wouldn't let anyone, not even her own self-doubt, dim her light. She stepped out into the cool night air, the stars twinkling above her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of quiet, unwavering hope. The future was still uncertain, but she was ready to face it. Not with fear, but with a quiet, unwavering belief in herself.